Marria was 22 years old. She lived in a small town near the river, where the mornings smelled of wet earth and the evenings carried the songs of the birds going home. To everyone who saw her, Marria looked happy. She always smiled. At the market, at work, at the bus stop, her lips curved into that soft, gentle smile that made others feel warm. But only Marria knew how heavy her heart really was. She woke up every morning before the sun, boiled water for tea, and looked at her reflection in the small cracked mirror above the sink. "Smile, Marria," she whispered to herself. "People love the girl who smiles." And so she did. She smiled at her neighbors, at her friends, at her boss. But inside, she carried memories that hurt like sharp glass. At work, she sat at the reception desk of a small English coaching center. The place was simple but full of dreams. Every day, young boys and girls came there to learn English, hoping that one day, good English would give them good jobs and a better life. Marria was not a teacher. She just managed the desk, helping students sign up, answering calls, making tea for guests. Yet she listened carefully to every word the teacher spoke in class. When the classroom door was half open, she would stand outside for a moment and listen. "Repeat after me," the teacher said. "I am happy, you are happy, we are happy." The students laughed as they repeated the sentences, their voices rising and falling like a song. Marria smiled again. But in her heart, she whispered, "I am not happy, but maybe one day I will be." One afternoon, a new teacher came to the center. His name was Daniel. He was tall, quiet, and kind. He spoke English slowly and clearly so that beginners could understand. Marria liked the way he explained things with patience. She respected that. On his first day, he walked up to her desk and said politely, "Hi, you must be Marria. I'm Daniel, the new English teacher." Marria stood up quickly, a little shy. "Yes, sir. Welcome to the center." "Please, call me Daniel," he said with a smile. "You don't have to be formal." She nodded. "Okay, Daniel." It felt strange to say his name like that. As days passed, they often met in the corridor or near the tea table. Daniel noticed how Marria smiled all the time, even when she looked tired. One evening, as the sun painted the walls orange, he asked gently, "Marria, why do you always smile? You never seem sad." Marria laughed softly. "Because people like happy faces." He looked at her with kind eyes. "Yes, but happy faces also deserve rest. You know, it's okay not to smile sometimes." Her hands froze for a second. No one had ever said that to her before. Later that night, Marria sat alone in her small rented room. The light from her desk lamp fell on a notebook full of English words. She was learning secretly, practicing in silence every night. She wanted to speak like the teachers, to tell stories, to stand in front of a class one day, but she had no confidence. Her past had stolen that from her. Years ago, Marria had been married to a man named Karim. He was her first love. When they married, she was only 18, too young, too innocent, and too trusting. For a short time, everything felt perfect. Karim worked in another city and promised to bring her there soon. But slowly, his phone calls became fewer, his voice colder. One day, he simply stopped calling. She waited for months. That day, Maria's world broke quietly. Her father died the same year, and her mother became ill. Marria had no choice but to work. Her smile became her armor, the thing that protected her from people's questions and pity. Now, years later, as she practiced English alone, she whispered to herself in simple sentences, "I am strong. I can learn. I can change my life." The next day, Daniel walked into the center early. He found Marria reading from a small notebook at her desk. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. She looked up quickly and closed the notebook. "Good morning, Daniel. Were you studying English?" he asked kindly. Marria hesitated. "Just a little. I want to speak better." Daniel smiled. "That's wonderful. You can join my beginner class after your shift if you want." Her eyes widened. "Really? But I work until late." "I can stay a bit longer," he said. "Learning is never a waste of time." And that was how Marria began learning English again, not as a dreamer, but as a believer. Every evening after the students left, she sat in the classroom with Daniel. Sometimes she felt shy. Sometimes her pronunciation was wrong. But Daniel always said, "You're doing great, Marria. Keep going." Little by little, her words became clearer, her confidence stronger. She began to help new students practice speaking. When they stumbled, she smiled and said, "Don't worry, I was like you once." One day, Daniel gave her a task. "Marria," he said, "next week, I want you to tell a short story to the class, in English." Her heart jumped. "Me? But I'm not ready." "You are," he said calmly. "You just don't believe it yet." That night, Marria couldn't sleep. She wrote and rewrote her story, practicing every line in front of the mirror. Her voice shook, but she kept going. On the day of the class, when she stood in front of the students, her hands trembled. She began softly. "Hello, everyone. My name is Marria. Today I will tell you a story about a smile that hid the pain." The room became quiet. Daniel nodded from the back, smiling with pride. Marria continued. "Sometimes people smile not because they are happy, but because they are strong. I was that person once. I smiled every day, even when I was breaking inside. But English helped me speak again. It gave me new words, new hope and new dreams. And now I smile because I want to, not because I have to." When she finished, the students clapped. Marria covered her mouth, tears shining in her eyes. For the first time in years, her smile felt real. After class, Daniel walked up to her. "You did it, Marria. You spoke from your heart." She looked at him, still trembling. "Thank you, Daniel. You helped me find my voice." He shook his head gently. "No, Marria. You already had it. You just needed to believe in it." From that day, Marria began to live differently. She still smiled, but now her smile carried peace, not pain. She continued studying English, reading stories, and helping others learn. Eventually, the coaching center made her an assistant teacher. She started guiding new learners, people who, like her, once felt broken or afraid. When students asked her, "Miss Marria, how did you learn to speak so well?" she would smile and say, "Because I learned to speak from the heart first." Sometimes in quiet evenings, she still thought of her past, of Kareem, of the lies, of the hurt. But those memories no longer had power over her. She had learned something greater. Life moves forward when you forgive yourself and believe again. Years later, Marria opened her own small online channel to help beginners learn English through stories. She told stories of hope, love, and courage, simple words that touched hearts. Many people wrote in the comments, "Your voice gives us peace." And every time she read those words, she whispered to herself, "Yes, this is what my smile was meant for, to heal, not to hide." Her smile still shone every day, but now, behind that smile, was not pain, only light.